Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is December 2nd, Saturday, December 2nd, 2023, the first week of December. And I hope you guys are having a great start to your weekend. This is Nonprofit Cheat Codes, and I'm Mekil Shaw, your host. And we'll be getting crunk up in just a couple seconds.
Ain't taking no flicks, but the whole click snap. There's a whole lot of people in the house trying to smoke with the yak in your mouth. And we back outside. You said you outside, but you ain't that outside. Worldwide hoodie with the mask outside. In case you forgot how we act outside. Motivation.
Good morning.
Morning.
Checking my new salvation. My own foundation, yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Moore. How we doing this morning?
Good morning, my brother. I'm all good.
Good stuff. How was the week so far?
Good, man. Good week. Ended the week up here in the Rock.
You brought your whole stuff, or
Making
you
it
just brought your
happen.
phone? You brought your kit with you?
Now, what's going on? What'd you say?
I was joking. I said you brought your whole kit, sound kit with you, or just your phone?
Nah, just my phone.
I forgot
Just
you
my
was
phone.
broadcasting from the Rock this morning.
Yeah, sure. I ain't have time to bring the setup, but what I'm gonna do is have a setup in the building. So
That would
when
be
I'm
nice.
here,
Yeah.
everything will already be set up. So making that part of the necessary equipment, and we're gonna set up a broadcast booth there. Actually, we're gonna set up a little podcast situation there. So
Oh, good stuff, brother.
we'll have everything set up.
It's funny you say that because look, I've been looking for an excuse to get the updated Rodecaster. So look, I think you may have helped me out there. I think I may have to have the setup at the branding lab and the Team Jenny Bean Resource Center, and then have a setup at home. And I like it at home because there's sometimes I get on early and I get started early. So having it where I don't have to go all the way to the office to come on will be important. But I definitely
Right.
want to offer that as a service to some of my clients and some of the people that we work with in North Carolina. So that actually, look, I don't need but a little bit of excuse to get some text. So that's good stuff. Good morning again, Melvin. Good morning, Leslie. Good morning, Deborah. Happy Saturday. I hope you guys are coming in from a good place today. It is a little dreary and miserable in the skies in North Carolina, and I hear some other places are getting some inclement weather, to say the least. How's the weather in Western New York, Gerald?
Same as you got, man. Rainy, cold. So, but it is what it is. We're going to make it happen with a smile on our face, get out there and beat the streets still anyway.
Absolutely, 100%. And this week on Nonprofit Cheat Codes, we're going to do a recap of Giving Tuesday and get some feedback, finding out how it went for folks around the country. I hope you had a great Giving Tuesday. I hope it was very successful. But we're going to talk a little bit about it because actually there are reports that some of the numbers were lower this year. So people weren't as giving as some years past, and there's some percentages down that were collected this year, a little different from last year. So we'll talk about that. We will also talk about being in December. We are in the 12th month of the year, which is kind of crazy how fast this year went by. And Joe, you remember I was getting all geared up for my 50th birthday celebration this time last year. And to think that a year has gone by since we had that 50th birthday celebration. So time is not waiting on anyone. We're going to talk about it. Today's topic, we're going to chime into the power or relevance of email marketing and if it even matters anymore. Are you using email marketing for your business or nonprofit? And if not, why? If so, why? We're going to chop it up a little bit about that. And then, of course, we always read the room and find out what the room is talking about. And I hope you guys, as always, will bring some valuable content to the table, some good questions and good insights. So we'll jump right into it to get things moving here as we get ready to roll in. So actually, I'm going to give a little bit of room on our weekly wins because the rest of our team haven't all arrived yet. And I know a couple people are en route. So this week was a pretty good week for me in general, as we talked about Giving Tuesday last week. A lot of build up to Giving Tuesday came over the last couple of weeks. We've been talking about it every week and trying to really get people motivated to make some effort to make sure they put their nonprofit efforts face forward to make sure you got some impact. I've had a lot of positive experience doing the crowdfunding route. I have not had as much experience or positive experience on the grant angle. Being very frank, it's probably because I haven't really put a whole lot of dedicated focus to it. But I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I don't like having to wait on the grants. But it is a necessary evil sometimes, and it's a refund. It's a resource as nonprofits that we definitely do not want to overlook, and we want to make sure our fiscal fitness is really on a good place for our nonprofits. And I think a lot of grants is really preparation and relationship building. So never to discourage it, but I mention it because we had pretty good success with our crowdfunding campaigns, and social media was our friend this Giving Tuesday. And I hope you guys have the same story to tell or same report. Gerald, how was Giving Tuesday for Mission Fulfilled this year?
You know I'm a complainer, right? I'm a complainer.
Not really. You're not no complainer. Look, you might be a lot of things, but you ain't a complainer.
So we did okay. Like I can't complain. I think we did raise more last year. But towards our goal, so we wanted to try and raise $10,000.
Okay.
And we were able to raise $3,600 of that $10,000.
Okay.
But we did have people reach back out and say, "Hey, we wanted to give for Giving Tuesday, but we will make a donation on this date." Right. So I think Giving Tuesday was a catalyst for year-end giving for us. Right. So I can't say, okay, well, we didn't make as much as we did for that exact day, but we did get some people who pledged to actually make donations to us prior to year's end. So I would still chalk that up as Giving Tuesday type revenue, because it actually stimulated the people to say, hey, we want to support Mission Fulfilled. So from that perspective, success. From
Absolutely.
The actual just day of giving, we did a little less. I think we did like $5,000 last year. But I think, like you said, with email marketing, right? So people are getting inundated with email. Right. We're inundated with email. So when I look at the stats from my email marketing, my stats were a lot worse from last year as far as open emails or click through the links in the emails. So my stats were much better last year. I actually decided to look back at that because data is everything, right?
Absolutely.
So when I look at the data, and then I can say, okay, well, my data was much worse this year than last year as far as my email marketing is concerned. Therefore, I received less funds. So then what it stimulated me to do is to say, okay, what can we do different? What can we add? And I reached out to you and told you about the concept that I came up with, that I won't bring up now, and for the sake of we're not bringing that up right now. But it stimulated some new thinking. It stimulated some new, okay, maybe we need to make some changes. So I think when we look at it from a overall perspective, that's how we have to look at it.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, so to build off what you're saying for Giving Tuesday, so this year we did a little better, but I started planting seeds a little earlier. So for me, as I've told you, I think our database of emails is probably about, for the nonprofit specifically, we have probably about 2,700 emails that we've collected over years. And these are good emails. In other words, we've had more than that, but you get bounce backs and you get rejections and you get unsubscribed people. But for me, crowdfunding or using platforms like GoFundMe and whatnot work very well. But what our success is that I feel like people kind of know those platforms and they're tried and true. So they know that these platforms have not given them any problem. It hasn't been any fraud for them in the last 5 years or so. So they feel comfortable about giving in those places. And I think, funny enough, with Tiffany doing her segment a couple weeks ago about safe giving during the giving season, I think that is a real issue for people. So as we talk about like what was different this year, it's a lot of fraud going on too. So people are getting skeptical about their resources of giving and how they're giving their credit card numbers out and whatnot. And I think that may have some of the impact on it. For us, the people that, not all of them obviously, but many of the people who give through GoFundMe for us are people who've given multiple times over a 5 or 6 year period. So it's just kind of waking them up sometimes and knocking and saying, hey, we're here. Remember us. If you're giving out this Giving Tuesday or this season, make sure you consider contributing to our campaign. But I think it is something to consider that we have to be nimble and we have to be considerate of all the different ways that people are coming to us. I'm going to chat real quick. So Leslie says, I don't usually raise anything on Giving Tuesday. I do a weekly email newsletter, but realized yesterday that I was the only one who read the Giving Tuesday email out of the list of 270. A lot of bounces, etc. And that's kind of what we're referring to here. And Janice says, we started our campaign 2 weeks before Giving Tuesday and are running a 30-day campaign. Thank you both ladies for your contributions. And I think it's good to get this feedback. All this build up to Giving Tuesday, and not to get the feedback and talk about it in some retrospect, I think would be kind of a misnomer and a failure on our part. So I'm glad you guys are sharing your feedback. So for me, as I told you, crowdfunding has been very successful for us, extremely successful for us. And I think to some extent, those people feel like they know us, all right? They've seen growth. They've seen us go over the years. We suffered during the pandemic. So some people prospered during the pandemic. For our organization, we took a real downturn during the pandemic because a lot of what we were doing was hospital facing, meaning that we would go to hospitals, go to units, drop off packages, etc. And you weren't getting anywhere near a hospital during the pandemic. So you would say, well, you didn't just have to go to hospital. You're right. But for us, a lot of what we were able to show as social proof was showing our presence at the hospitals, showing our deliveries, and that impacted some of the glitz and glam, if you will, not glitz and glam literally, but some of the physical appearance or some of the social proof that we were able to show on our channels for the work we were doing. So I think all that being said, we've had to regroup and regauge, and we're trying to do it now. But I think, thank you, Janice, and thank you, Leslie, for giving that feedback. Joe, what other things might you contribute to the downturn of, or some of the lack of giving this Giving Tuesday?
A lot of things are happening in the world, right? So we have this war in Palestine and Israel,
Right.
which a lot of people give to, right? So
Right.
there are a lot of major fundraising efforts going to kind of bigger things that are happening in the world.
Right.
So I would attribute some of it to that. And then the economy. So we got a lot of stuff going on in the economy with interest rates have risen like 2 points over the last year. So think about where interest rates were last year versus this year. Start different. So the economy, and then there's this uncertainty in the economy.
Right.
Like we don't know what's happening.
Absolutely.
Like we see like the housing market, right? So there's a lot of unprecedented things happening in the housing market. Like for the interest rate to be at an all-time high for kind of like this period of time, you would think like most people are saying that housing market should be less, but it's actually getting higher, even though the interest rates have gotten higher, right? So I think a lot of people are maybe struggling a little bit in regards to, you know, what the market looks like in relation to financial stability as a country and not just them as a people. So I think that type of uncertainty, and if you look at the news every day, like they're putting out that uncertainty.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I think people are holding on to their money a little bit. I think even like Black Friday took a hit, right? They didn't do as well this year.
No, absolutely. That's another valid point that a lot of stores didn't get to sell. And if they weren't about giving if they weren't literally giving away the walls and the racks this year, it was everything to get you out. Black Friday started the 2 weeks before Black Friday, and they called it, you know, they're calling it Cyber Week and Cyber Black Week to some extent, all the advertisements I got. But some of this, great points that you make, Gerald, some of this also ties back in to email and the relevance. And we're going to dive into it and chop it up as we talk about it, because I think it is very relevant. And we're going to talk about, are you leveraging email marketing? And if you are not, why not? And how you can get more emails to market. And you're right, to some extent, and I'm sure you all can share with me different perspectives, but my email, I check every email. So I'm probably a little OCD about my email. So I never have more, like I'm looking at my email as I'm talking to you guys. I have 10 emails in my email, right? And half of those 10 are ones I've already looked at, but I'm keeping them new so that I can go back to them today because there's something I want to check into. But when I think about my wife, for instance, my wife will literally have 650 emails, and that would make my brain explode. Like I would literally go nuts. I check my emails every day and multiple times a day. So for me, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, man, my emails were buzzing. I had to turn notifications off because my emails were buzzing so much. But we're going to talk about how that looks and what that looks like. So we're going to chop it up real quick. Everyone isn't here, but we're going to keep on moving. Gerald, let's talk about our wins of the week.
Winner of the week. Southside.
All right, Mr. Moore, kick us off with wins of the week, sir.
So even though we didn't do what we did last year in relation to Giving Tuesday, win of the week, Giving Tuesday, we raised some funding, we raised some awareness, right? So that's another thing. Like, awareness has value.
Absolutely.
I noticed that a lot of people shared more this year, a lot of the work that we were doing. So that's a win. So we probably picked up a lot of new subscribers to Mission Fulfilled. So that's a win of the week.
Absolutely.
People did still pledge to make donations prior to year's end, which most of them become tax strategies, right?
Right.
So we'll take that as well.
Absolutely.
So those are our wins of the week.
Absolutely. And let's first chop it up and shout it out. We appreciate that. Good stuff. And the part that every win does not have to be a financial win, and every benefit of Black Tuesday isn't all financial giving. Raising awareness, as Gerald just said, is a major part of the success of Giving Tuesday. Now, some people say, yeah, I can't spend awareness, but you actually can if you leverage it the right way. And as we say here often, you're building relationships. So never forget the capacity that you're building relationships. And all relationships don't produce fruit in the immediacy of when you meet people. The intro is not where you always benefit in relationships, And another part, and I really try to push this a lot, it's not always what you can get. Sometimes it's what you can give. And I think as nonprofits, we have to really, really be focused on that angle of it. What can you bring to the table? What can you give back? Right? So what is the added value you bring? As we used to hear Liberty say here, I've borrowed it many, many times, the with them. What's in it for you? Right? But what's in it for the people? What are they getting out of it? What are you bringing? What's the added value? So one of the things I believe for our win of the week was that we did pretty good. We did I think we only did about $2,000 for this Giving Tuesday. And that was probably a little trailed into Wednesday still. And we do have some commitments and some people who did reach out and say, I'll be giving to you, you guys this giving season this December. So I think it all does matter. So one thing with our nonprofit, it was started by my youngest daughter. It is named after her. It's Team Jenny Bean Childhood Cancer Foundation. But I will tell you the impact. When I post something from Genesis, it gets immediate donations. And it's almost bizarre. Like, you don't care about what the hell I just said? Like, excuse my language. But when I post Genesis, we have some video content coming from her in the next couple of days and weeks. But when she gets on and she says it, it's just an automatic click. It's like they just resonate with the young lady and it being her vision. So I have to hold true to that and acknowledge that, you know what, she got more pull than Daddy got. Daddy might be driving the bus, but Jenny is navigating it all the way. So funny enough, and Gerald will remember, when we fully got our 501 or incorporated and got our 501c3, we were at the meeting with our law firm that did everything for us. And we had to, because Genesis obviously is an 18, we had to make Genesis the honorary Chief Inspiration Officer. So that's her role in our nonprofit. She is the Chief Inspiration Officer. And I mention it specifically because we're building relationships. And it may sound like a small thing, but some of the payout that you're going to get is not going to be seen in an immediate sense. And I know, Gerald, you can speak to this. People you've met, and then you look up and it's $5,000 or it's $1,000 or it's, hey, we got this money. Gerald, can you speak to, whenever I think about this, I think about you and the church that was kind of filling you out before they made that donation. That was a very significant donation. Could you share that with us?
Yeah. So I think that, especially in alignment with what you just said, right? So we've built kind of momentum over time. So we got our 501c3 in 2019. So we're literally 4 years old. I still consider that a startup, considering a lot of the organizations that have looked at us in regards to being grant ready actually have said, hey, we want to see a 5-year window of service. So we're not even in that. But considering that, when I think about some of the organizations that have supported us and the dollars have gotten bigger over time, and like you said, I had a church that was looking at us and said, hey, we love the work that you do. We want you to apply for a grant. And, I'm thinking, hey, I'll just ask, for $10,000, right? And then they turned around and said, no, we looked at what you do and we're going to give you $50,000. So the dollars have gotten bigger for us. We're having much bigger conversations. Individuals have pledged more. So Giving Tuesday, let's talk about Giving Tuesday. So yeah, we didn't raise what we wanted to for Giving Tuesday, but there are a lot more individuals that have given us $2,500, $4,000, $5,000 from just individuals. So I think that the work that we've done and the visibility that we put out there and just the consistency of our work has allowed us to get donors at a higher level, which we would consider, major gifts. Like for some other organizations, a major gift is $100,000. But as a startup nonprofit, a major gift for us is $1,000. If somebody's willing to contribute and make a donation of $1,000, that's pretty big for us.
Absolutely.
So, from a small nonprofit perspective, and I still consider us in a startup phase, I think that from start to now, we're light years ahead of where I thought we would be, especially considering when you start from nothing and you don't start with a wealthy donor who just says, hey, here's $1 million, you can set up everything and just get rolling. From that perspective, man, we're light years ahead. And I think that is the consistency. It's the consistency of what we've done. I had somebody following us for 3 years, and this guy reached out to me and said, hey, I've been following what you've done for 3 years, and I haven't made any donation. And he was like, man, dude, $1,500. He was like, he apologized for me for not donating sooner. He just thought we would be some fly-by-night thing. We were just talking, and just time allowed him to see the work that we were doing, and he finally pulled the trigger. So I think you have people like that actually want to see it out. Okay, what are they really doing?
Absolutely. And I think that, again, that relationship matters, and you can't take for granted the power of that relationship. We're going to switch it up a little bit here. I'm going to take Lisa's segment and jump on
news you can use with
news
Lisa Tinsley.
You can use. All right, you guys, I got some good nonprofit news coming from across the country and some pop news to boot. So I hope you guys will bear with me just a couple seconds. So welcome to this week's nonprofit news you can use. And we're going to slice through the noise to bring you the real deal. So let's jump right into it. Our first story here is cash flow in New Jersey. Over in Jersey, the nonprofit finance fund is swimming in the loot, if you will, with a $5.5 million donation from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. They're spreading that love to local do-gooders, making sure that those community champs have what they need to keep on shining. Story 2 is Giving Tuesday scoop. Now, Giving Tuesday just rolled by, of course, but the piggy banks weren't jiggling, as you heard me say earlier. It's loud this year. This year's donations were down a little bit, but hey, it's the thought that counts, right? And every dollar counts. Every dollar drops dropped into the hat, I'm sorry, makes a bigger splash. Story 3 is eco-friendly funding drama. Here's a real head scratcher. The big dogs and environmental nonprofits are grabbing all the green, but they're leaving the little guys out in the cold. And unfortunately, diverse-led organizations are getting the short end of the stick. It's time to spread some of that green love a bit more evenly, folks. Story 4 is mental health lifeline for nonprofit folks. Big props to Counselor and Smile Train for hooking up the nonprofit workers with some much needed mental health support. With stress levels hitting the roof this year, this text-based lifeline is a game changer for our everyday heroes that are doing the work that won't wait. Number 5 is the diaper dilemma. And here's something that'll make you go, wait, what? Half of the families with young kids in the United States are struggling to afford diapers. Yes, you heard me, diapers. United for Babies is stepping up to help out, but dang, that's one costly baby booty. Excuse the comedy. 6, congressional shakeup. Congressman George Santos, as I'm sure many of you were heard, is the guy with more fiction on his resume than a sci-fi novel. But he just got shown the door by the House. With a historic vote, they said bye Felicia Santos, making him only the 6th member in history to be kicked out of Congress. Talk about leaving a legacy, but not the kind you want. Story number 7 is from the Middle East. It's the Middle East meltdown. Over in the Middle East, Hamas and Israel, the ceasefire went up in smoke. That truce truly crumbled this week, and air strikes are back on, unfortunately, turning the streets into even more chaos. It's a real mess over there, but the issue is the real folks are the everyday folks, are the people who are really paying the price. And I think that's something that we got to pay a little extra attention to, because the implications are definitely coming home. And our final story is political showdown. Now for some primetime drama. Florida Governor DeSantis and California Governor Newsom faced off in a fiery debate. They threw punches over everything from COVID-19 to education, and it was mixed with hard facts and some basic political dance moves, with each fiercely defending their own state. DeSantis, considered by many to be on his home turf in the debate, still seemed miserable. Talk about stealing defeat from the hands of victory. And there you have it, your weekly dose of nonprofit news you probably can't use. From big bucks to political brawls, it's been one heck of a week, but we want you to stay strong, stay smart, and keep pushing for what's right, because we know that the work won't wait. Good stuff, you guys. So I'm trying to kick it in and keep on pushing with our nonprofit news, because there are relevant news that are happening in space, and it may not be all front facing to nonprofits, but I think the relevance is a lot of what's going on does have social impact. And I think a lot of what's going on is relevant, even if it's not directly affecting us. It has the trickle down effect, and it impacts our communities. So many times we get the remnants of some of this stuff. And I think it's really important for us to stay really ahead of the trend, because when something happens, as they say, when it happens, Gerald, what's the quote? Tell me again. When when it rains, it storms in the neighborhood. You remember that quote, Gerald? You're off. No, you're mute. Okay. And anyway, I'm trying to tell you my little quote here. Somebody drop it in the chat. You guys will probably know it better.
So that quote is said a couple different ways, right? So it says that when white folks got cold, black folks got pneumonia.
Okay, that's definitely one way. Absolutely, 100%. And what's the other one? Look, I'm waiting. I'm thinking about it.
I like confuse myself. When it rains, it pours, or something like that.
Absolutely. In any event, my point being made is that even things that are happening.
Comedy hour, just the comedy section.
It's all good, you guys. It's all good.
Keisha laughing at us.
It's
Janice
all good.
Laughing at us.
It's good stuff.
Listen, comedy section.
But the funny, when I say honesty, literally news you can't use. The point I'm making is that some of this stuff doesn't seem like it's affecting us in our day-to-day lives. But when we're doing this work in our communities, there is definitely a trickle-down effect. And just like with all the other major crises, it starts trickling down, but it then does the most damage boots on the ground. I remember in 2009 when the housing market was crashing. And for me, it really was a horrible time as a small business. And I remember it probably was around, literally was probably around, I want to say maybe April. And I started seeing my sales go down tremendously, like literally almost like somebody blacklisted me or something. I literally had my sales crash. And I'm starting to kind of ask around. I'm asking my wife at the time, and I'm like, "Ugh, like what's going on? Like people aren't coming." And I didn't know. I didn't know that, you hear little buzzes of housing market, but the issue was I had a discretionary business. People didn't have to get pictures taken. People didn't have to get design done necessarily. So because my business was a discretionary spend for many, it wasn't a mandate. You got to get your hair cut, right? You got to buy groceries. You got to get gas. You don't got to get your baby pictures done. You don't got to get the big senior picture package. And I started feeling it really early. So I really took it personal and felt like, damn, people are against me. And then what I saw literally by December, I closed down. It was that bad that we went from anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 every 2 weeks to like literally nosedive. And I mention it because I closed down because at some point I had to stop the bleeding. But as I look back and I saw other businesses in the next 12 months, business after small business after small business after small business after small business was closing. And it was like, oh, okay, so it wasn't uniquely me at all. And many of us, if you want to keep it real, as they say, many of us hold on out of pride and hold on because it's our baby. And we probably should let go or at least revamp or regroup. And we go down with the ship, unfortunately, sometimes. And what I had to realize, it wasn't that I couldn't do the business. I just had to grossly regroup and reformat and restructure how I was doing it. So I mentioned that here to say, as nonprofits, you may not see the immediate impact of some of the societal woes or some of the governmental things that are going on. But just like we just mentioned with Giving Tuesday, this year, crazy enough, was less giving than last year. And I'll get the exact numbers and let you know in a minute. But that's something to think about, right? Because it's, for many people, the pandemic, money was coming in bountifully. Gerald, I mean, I know you told me that during the pandemic, you were probably your most successful in some ways of donations and contributions.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Let me step back to something.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
We talked about having to shut your business down, just reframe how the business actually works and execute it. We're seeing a lot of that today. We think about 2023, a lot of small businesses are still shutting down. Right. There's even big box stores that have had to shut down in places just because what's happening in relation to how we do business and how we transact business. More and more people do business online, right? So they're not leaving their homes to go into stores and things like that. But when we see from a nonprofit perspective, I think that from a small nonprofit perspective, we have to do better in partnership. There are organizations that do the work that we do from a bigger perspective that have better funding opportunities that we have to try and partner with. And for me, I have begun to start stimulating more conversations with organizations that do similar work, but don't do our work, that are funded much better. They have much bigger organizations, and those conversations have begun to be more fruitful. So when you talk about transitioning what you do and how to better streamline your business and make things work better from a nonprofit perspective, we have to do a much better job of finding those other organizations that we could bring our niche to in partnership and let them fund us to do it.
Absolutely.
And it also gives them an opportunity to add numbers because they're all about data too. So if you can bring, some good data to them in the work that you do, those are meaningful relationships and partnerships that'll help you down the road where they're writing grants and say, hey, we're going to have XYZ organization as a partner with us. So then you don't even have to write those grants.
Right.
right? You're just a part of, you're an extension of what they do from a smaller nonprofit. And I think um, those are good opportunities that we can no longer overlook.
Absolutely. And a quick check in. So, good morning, Keisha. Good morning, Keisha. Our two Keishas in the audience. Good morning, Lanique. Happy to have you here. Happy to see you guys. Appreciate your presence as always. And to your point, Gerald, when you say about not having to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm sorry. Or not having to carry the whole weight by yourself. And I had this conversation with several folks this week about grant writing, and it's not a one and done. And this ideal that because one person says no does not mean it's no for everybody, right? And it can be very discouraging. Let's speak very frankly. It can be very discouraging when you are on the fringe. I mean, how many of us are funding our organizations out of our pockets? You know, literally, you buy groceries, and for some folks, it's a can for our house, a can for the family next door, a can for our organization, a can for our house. And I mention that because it is discouraging. It is something that shakes people sometimes. And I just got to say it out loud because I think people don't always understand. A lot of the people who are running small nonprofits, they're literally taking it from their own table. And it's not because it's necessarily fun, but it's because they really believe in what they're doing. They really, truly believe it. And they've seen the need. You know, so it's real easy to talk about small nonprofits, and you got these big organizations that are getting, as you mentioned a lot, Gerald, $250, $1 million grants. And I'm not hating because obviously the goal is I hope we're all able to get that type of funding, but it doesn't happen overnight. And a lot of grant preparation is that it's preparation, it's building relationships, it's being front facing, it's showing social proof. And that's probably the thing that I talk about with the nonprofits I work with and consult with the most is that you have to show the work. You have to show the work. You have to show the work. And sometimes people think because I'm a marketing dude or I'm a visual guy that Mike just wants us to take pictures. I don't want to be rude, but I can give a damn about you taking pictures. It's about you showing the work. If your son has to hold the camera, if your daughter has to hold the camera, then let them hold the camera, but you got to show the work. People invest more when they see the work being done. So when you're trying to get a person to let go of that quiet cash or that money that always don't clang, then you got to show them that you're really about this work you're doing. And that's what I was referring to when I was saying about Team Jenny Bean not being front facing, hospital facing. So we don't get to go to the hospital, or we didn't get to go any during the pandemic. So for a lot of people, they didn't get to see us doing work. Didn't mean that we weren't still packing up boxes and sending them all around the country. And I have taken pictures of a lot of packing boxes, but a lot of what we've been going to is sending individual boxes out. So it's not like when you guys look at Instagram and you see some of the influencers selling the skinny tea or the packets, and they're packing up 250 different packets in the middle of the living room. Very impressive. For some of what we do, it's literally one kid. And excuse the expression, but it don't look sexy when you just pack in one box, right? But it still matters because that's our demographic, and that's the work that we do. So to Gerald's point, let's switch it up a little bit and really chop it up about this email marketing. I think it's something, first of all, sometimes I think people think, well, it's email. Anybody doing no damn email no more? Excuse my language again. But I submit to you, yes, people are doing, and email is an extremely, very, very powerful tool in your funding strategy and awareness strategies. So just from the room, anybody here, just show of hands, I won't pull you up here. Anybody here who has nonprofits, just show me a show of hands of people who leverage email campaigns for Giving Tuesday. Anybody here who leveraged an email campaign? So I got one. Anybody else leveraged an email campaign for their Giving Tuesday efforts? Only one? Or y'all not listening? Okay, two. Only two? And that's fine. I'm not trying to force you to. So
I think Leslie did. So Leslie did.
Leslie did too. Okay. So point being is a little half based on what we're looking right here have done email for Giving Tuesday. The reason I'm mentioning it, and we're going to dive into it a little bit, is because email is still a huge communication source. So for some of us to feel like it's only IMs and it's only social media posts, you can't dismiss any of it. But for some people, email is still a driving force of communication. And the way they use email can be very different. So, as you heard me say, I'm a little OCD, so you can laugh at me a little bit here. I check my emails probably far more than I need to, but I just hate the idea of unchecked messages. But there are other people who let emails pile up and only check them twice a week. Now, I know Gerald and I talk a lot, and he talks about how, oh man, I got to go through emails. And I'm like, well, how many emails? He's like, hundreds. And I'm like, dude, how did you let your emails pile up like that? But I mentioned it only to say,
It's not letting them pile up, dude. When you got 200 emails that come in a day,
right. I'm telling you, I got that many emails coming in. I'll feel like it's probably FOMO for me, fear of missing out. It is, my point to you is that whatever your method is, right? Email is still a powerful tool, and all of the big companies that are raising, all of the nonprofits and major companies are still leveraging email, and they're not leveraging it alone. So that's kind of what I wanted to get into a little bit, a strategized approach. So you got your emails, you got your social media posts, you got your live videos, you got your YouTube lives. Gerald, talk a little bit, because I hear you saying it's too many emails, but you can't afford to miss the right email either, can you?
So what I've done is I know where my important emails come from. So my email box is structured to move those emails to certain folders. So, those miscellaneous emails still come in, and a lot of them I won't read. So I actually know which ones are the important ones. So when I have people that I communicate with that I deem important, I actually create a filter for them. So I know I can go directly to those things that are important. If I apply for a grant, right, it's typically the URL associated with that organization. So I'll create a filter for them. So there is a strategy in relation to how I review email.
Okay.
But I still get so many. So my box stays full with a lot of what I would just say miscellaneous. So some of it's junk, some of it's not. But the miscellaneous stuff that I don't deem that's, important. It's 24-hour important, not right now important.
Okay. So going to the chat real quick, Jan says here, email marketing is a part of our regular communications landscape. So anyone else, can you talk about, even if you do it in the chat or come up if you want to, how you stay on top of the emails? The reason I'm mentioning it specifically is because in some cases, especially as Gerald just mentioned, if you are filing for a grant or applying for a grant and you need to be notified, now more than likely you're going to pay a little attention from that. But they're so easy for email to slip through the cracks. And for what we're doing, just like in regular business, you can miss a real opportunity. So I think of examples of people that have happened many times over. We've been in existence now going into our 6th year. And I think of, okay, I'll give you an example. So sometimes we've got news inquiries for stories in our local news markets. And the way they reach out to us is an email. I'll get a newsroom director or producer who sent us email out and say, hey, we saw this so-and-so, and we want to find out you guys available for a story. In other words, they need a segment for a 2-minute story that's going to run tonight, and they need you to activate and move immediately. So that's one example of why email is the major form of communication for those folks. Most of those people tend to not, doesn't mean they won't, but tend to not call you. So any other strategies in the room of how you leverage or get through your email? Number 4, before we talk about sending them out, how do you manage your emails so that you stay abreast? Now, Gerald talked about filters. Filters are obviously a very useful tool. And whether you're using Gmail or some other Outlook, there are some really major tools to help you be apprised of high value emails coming in. Does anyone else have any strategies? If you want to drop in the chat or come up and share, I'd appreciate it. As I'm saying, it can't be dismissed that email is still a really valid way of communication. And I think even more because of some of the digital tools we have. For instance, emails have been important forever, right? But it's a whole different medium when you got a phone in your hand. And to throw another one out there, when you have voice to text. So I'm sending emails by Siri, send so-and-so an email. What do you want the email to say? Say yada, yada, yada. I'm just literally, as I'm driving, I'm sending emails sometimes. So I just mentioned that it's a medium that we really have to master. And any other people that are managing well or not managing well your email, anybody in the audience willing to share, or anybody on the live stream that's willing to drop in the chat some of the strategies that have been successful or hangups that you've had with your emails. And the other thing I'll say is, I'm waiting on a response, hopefully, is that there's too many tools to really be able to get the analytics from your emails now. You can literally find out when they were open, how many people opened, what was bounced back. It's so many ways to really gauge it. You were going to say something, Trill.
Yeah, so I want to add. Let's ask the question: what are people using? Right, like I use Mailchimp. Mailchimp's been really good for me. I like the way the analytics work. I have an app on my phone where I can look at all the different campaigns, email campaigns that I send out, kind of in real time. I think their scheduling platform is really good in relation to being able to schedule emails and then put them in the campaigns where, there's follow-up emails that go out at certain times, and then looking at how the people engage with those emails. So in the event that we may not be getting, if we send out a newsletter or something by email, there may not be feedback where somebody's sending us something back, but we can actually look at how the people engaged with the actual email. Like you can even get data of how much of the email they actually read by saying if the email scrolls a certain percentage, right? You can even get that data, which is great feedback, which tells you, how you need to structure your email and connect with it, right? So then if your email list is segmented right, you can see the segment of people who actually engage with that particular email, so you can make different decisions.
Right.
So even in not receiving email, like the data, like you're talking about, and the platform, if you got a platform, again, I use MailChimp, so MailChimp has been a good platform. Just ask the people what platforms are they using, because I know you use Constant Contact.
So, funny enough, and I do think that's a great question. If you guys are willing to share, we ask you to share what platforms are used. Now, actually, funny enough, I don't use my this is a shame on my part because of how much money I've given Constant Contact over the last 5 years, and I very rarely use it in the last 2 years. So what I've been using, differing from Constant Contact that I've had for a long time, and basically have donated them $600 a year, literally, is I've been using Wix. And for people who leverage or know of Wix website, the reason why I've been sticking with Wix as long as I have, I've done at this point probably 40 different nonprofit websites. And I constantly tell people to consider using Wix. And the reason why I use Wix, because Wix gives you probably 5 major modules that do everything in one place. So you're going to get email management and marketing with Wix. You're going to get event management and marketing with Wix. You're going to get blog management and marketing with Wix. Besides just your website, there's so many things that come under the one roof. So now for the last year, I've been I think I did one thing on Constant Contact this year. I've been exclusively using Wix because everything in the ecosystem works so seamlessly. So I can go from a blog post, send it out as an email. I get all of the analytics. I can then post it on my website, and I'm not using 4 or 5 different platforms to do it anymore. It's all inside. So for me, Wix has been a godsend for my email marketing because everything's connected. So for instance, perfect example, and I was looking as we're talking here, for this show, for Nonprofit Cheat Codes, this is how my format works. You guys probably have something totally different, but how I use for Nonprofit Cheat Codes is I start out with the concept. So as I produce Nonprofit Cheat Codes, I'll start out with what's this week topic or concept going to be. The first thing I do is I design a graphic or some visual aesthetic of this week's show. From there, and it's the reason I do it that way, because from there I have to schedule. So I, of course, have not of course, but I have Clubhouse in a weekly. It's just already pre-populated that we're going to do a Saturday morning show at 11. But then now that we use Rescreen for all of our video streaming every week now for the last couple months, I have to then program that show, and then I upload that graphic to be the face of our Restream. So from there, I write a blog. So I write a blog about whatever our topic is. And then I populate the email that'll include the blog. Many times it'll include a little video commentary. And then I put the links to all of the direct channels, the Clubhouse, the Restream, and any other direct resources that are going to come up relevant to that week's topic. Then I launch the email, I launch the blog, then I connect through social media channels. This is the other thing I didn't mention. Wix allows you to send all those directly to the social media channels right from inside Wix, seamless. So you can take care of 3 or 4 different processes right into one platform. Now, for me, I've been using that process for at least probably now about a year and a half, and it's the way that I'm able to produce. So from today, I'm just looking here real quick. So from today's email, I sent out, I think I sent out about 750 emails, good emails that went out for nonprofit cheat codes today. I got 600 opened. All right. I only got 10 clicked. This is the funny part. I only got 10 clicked. I got 20 bounces. I got no complaints, spam complaints. And then I got 25 site sessions that came from that email. So I'm just mentioning to you a really concrete way of how I use it in the ecosystem, even to produce the show that you're listening to or watching right now. For me, email is a major way. There are people who don't come to Clubhouse anymore. I'm telling you for a fact. I know several people, maybe one person in the room right now, who's not on Clubhouse regularly, but they come because of that email. And the email is the way we notified them that we're doing a show this week. So, Gerald, can you use or share one of your processes of how you leverage your email for Mission Fulfilled?
So similar to what you said, right? So what MailChimp allows me to do is every time I create an email, it sends that email and structures them as a social media post as well.
Okay.
For Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, and LinkedIn. So through those mediums, and I could see the same data, but being able to write one email that goes to 5 different platforms is a definite plus. And just leveraging that is kind of seeing, with the data, what is the data telling me, right? Do I need to make emails shorter? Do I need to make emails longer? I tend to think people like really short stuff.
Right.
Like what I've seen success with is maybe I'll put out like one sentence and then push them to somewhere else, right? That seems to be better than the long form email because people, it's time, right? People, how much time are people willing to give you for it? So I just think you have to look at the data to kind of see what strategy is actually working better for you. One thing we need to talk about, we get late in the show, but we're going to have to do a whole nother show on where I dropped the ball this year, text message marketing.
No, absolutely. And we've talked about that before. Absolutely.
I
think people are scared of text message marketing as well. Besides unawareness, I think people are sometimes afraid that it's going to be invasive or that people are going to get mad if you're texting them.
But last year, I did a better job of email marketing and text marketing because I was doing it from one space. Another thing we need to talk about in relation to email marketing is how people leverage their online fundraising platforms for email marketing, right? Because like you and I, we both use GoFundMe a little bit. So when you make an update GoFundMe, that goes out to those people's emails.
By email.
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's another strategy, like the fundraising platform. So last year, mobile calls, which I also use, I can email from that. So people who previously donated, I have their information and I can email them. A lot of times people will give their cell number because you can donate by text.
Right.
We didn't do any text marketing this year from the platform
Gotcha.
because I downloaded all of the emails and then I didn't think about, dang, I should have left those emails for those people, segmented them better,
Right.
and then still did the text message marketing for those people because they're previous donors. So we have a relationship with them, right? So I didn't do that. So I think we have to look at how we tie in the email marketing with text marketing as well.
And that goes back to the idea I was saying that I think email is still powerful, number one, so not to dismiss that at all. But we have to use a strativized strategy. So we're using email, social media, as you're saying, text. We're using multiple levels. It's not one and done. It is the combination of those multiple strategies that get you the most success. And obviously, we're coming up on our shutdown, our close down for the show. But it's a couple things I want to get across. And I love what you're saying about the text marketing. I think it is definitely worth us doing a show about it and really introducing people to it and telling them the relevance of it. Couple touch points or best practices I want to take out before we wrap up for today is, and what do I have here? Like 8 to 9 major points. So when we're talking about email marketing, especially for this giving and this holiday season and some of these seasonal campaigns, start with a clear objective, number one. All right. Be very clear so people know exactly what it's about, right? With a really clear call to action. All right. Segment your audience. You should not just blanketly, you can send everyone a send all, but you should segment because that gives you the most impact. Some of your major donors, some of the people who give maybe they're on a subscription model. You really want to break down that model of your audience and segment them. Number 3, craft compelling subject lines. That may be a thing you may know or may not know. That subject line can make all the difference in whether a person opens it or not. And I'm sure you guys have seen it is some real strategy to what people are putting in the subject line to get you to open that email. And if you didn't see them over the last week, you've never seen them in your life because it was some crazy stuff I saw that made me open emails this week. 4, design with the holiday or the season in mind. If it's holiday time, make sure you're designing your email to really appeal to that season. It's already multiple billions of dollars being used to market whatever the season is, but you want to make sure that you're also making sure your stuff is on brand with whatever that seasonality is, so you get the maximum bang for the buck. 5, create engaging and relevant content. You want to make sure there's too many resources out, from ChatGTP to some of the other resources we have. It's a lot of things that can really help you with making sure your content is good in your email. 6, use strong call to action. Specifically, make sure you don't end that email randomly. You want to tell people what you want them to do and not assume they get it just because your email is so cool and you're a great organization. Be willing to personalize the experience. And if you got an email that says, Gerald, we see that you did so and so, and that personalization does matter. It makes people feel ownership. It makes them feel a part of your organization. 8, test and optimize. It's nothing wrong with sending a short couple emails and seeing the feedback you get to see if people are resonating or if something's not moving at all. Be mindful of the timing. When you're sending your email, the days you're sending your email can make a big difference depending on your audience. And as Gerald made a huge point in this conversation, be willing to follow up and analyze the feedback and data that you're getting from your emails. In any regard, emails aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And with all of the other technology and all of the other resources, from IM to TikTok to social media posts, email still holds its place, and I don't think it's going to move anytime soon. Gerald, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yes, when people unsubscribe, look at it as a bonus, right? Get a chance to do some house. So I remember last year I was upset people unsubscribing from my email list.
Right.
But then I had to realize, hey, this is housekeeping. This is housekeeping. People not going to support anything, right? They just mess your data up, right? Because you're sending out the email. I rather them unsubscribe so my data gets better over time.
Right.
Than to be worried about, man, I had 10 people unsubscribe.
Right. And what's the other part? Let me just throw this out. I don't mean to interject on that part specifically, but just because a person unsubscribes doesn't mean that they won't resubscribe. Sometimes it's really about the with them.
Right.
What do they need at the time? What are they focused on at the time? And they very well may see something on social media that says, oh, I got to get a part of that. I need to get on that email list again. So it's not one and done. I'm sorry. You finishing?
No, and that's what I was going to follow up and say, because I still think those people follow us on other channels.
Absolutely.
I just think like you, right? So you're hyper over aggressive about what's in your email box. There's
Right.
a lot of people that's like that, right? So
Right.
maybe what I'm sending them from that platform is too much. And they're like, okay, we follow Gerald on Instagram, we follow Gerald on Facebook, so we still know what's going on, so I don't need to be a part of it.
Right. Now that's a great point, G. That's a really good point. Look, I haven't done it all today. That's
Monday.
no, I did the wrong one. That's a real cheat code. Good stuff. Really good stuff. Well, in any event, you guys, we appreciate you for another Saturday. As I mentioned last week, we are going to curtail our format down in time a little bit going into the new year. So as we get these last couple of weeks, we probably will be doing an hour and a half to hour shows. It's because we're getting prepared to be able to do the show to get a podcast format out of it so we can really get a solid podcast. We got so many episodes, and actually not to already have them solidly in the podcast is my failure, and I own it. But my point in saying it very specifically is that we really need to get that, because we got some great content, and in order to do that, we want to slim it down a little bit so people are getting more of a bite-size, consumable format from us. So with that being said, Amit, you're coming in as we're going out.
Hold on, we got to meet.
Let me invite him up real quick.
We can't shut down. We got to meet. Amit, get up on stage. Amit, where we meet for
He's
lunch,
already
man?
up. Amit, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Doing good. We were trying to we were shutting down as you were coming on, but Gerald wanted to chime in real quick. Gerald,
Amit, where we?
No. Let's
Amit.
keep going. No, just start.
Amit, where we
Hello?
meet for lunch, man?
Oh, I can't do lunch, but I can do a little later if you're around.
All right, hit me up.
Okay, I got lunch plans. That's what I'm saying. So,
I'm hungry,
definitely, you're
man.
okay. So let's do lunch. Hey, sorry, yeah, just run some errands. I gotta. You might pick up my rental car. Was a little bit of an accident. Blah blah blah. So I just
sorry to hear that, brother.
running some errands. Yeah. So anyways, hope you had a good show, and we'll see everybody.
We
next
did,
week.
and I'm telling you guys now, I'm trying to reach out to everyone for next week so we can do a short group meeting with everyone. You, me, Gerald, Lisa, and Tiffany. We have not been able to connect, so I'm going to send those emails out or texts out to you guys later. Thank you guys. Have an amazing weekend. We will see you on next Saturday at 11 a.m. Amit, Gerald, have a great weekend, and don't eat too much of that garbage plate up there in Rochester. I get a little jealous. Have a good one, fellas. I'll talk to you soon.
Amit, call me as soon as you get off so we can strategize this thing.
I will. All right, talk to you later.
All right, folks. We'll see you next weekend. We appreciate you.
This has been a Pep Talk Club production in conjunction with MSI Communications. Opinions expressed are of individual contributors. All rights are reserved. 2021. Rebroadcast of any portion is strictly prohibited.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.